The most important question asked for any Smash Bros. Game that came out after Melee was, is the game as good as Melee? Numerous debates would spark for any of the Smash Bros. Games being brought up for this question, but today, I'm going to settle once and for all what's the best competitive Smash Bros. Game between Super Smash Bros. Melee and Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. Because what I say goes. You got that, Buster? From a casual perspective, it's hard to see how a game like Smash Melee that came out in 2001 could even be compared to any of the games that have come after it, let alone Ultimate. But Melee from a competitive standpoint is still arguably the best game. This seems weird, but it's due to a lot of the mechanics in the game being more polished than the others. Before I get into comparing Ultimate and Melee though, let me just go ahead and tell you why some of the other Smash Bros. Games just could not compare. Obviously Smash 64 looks pretty bad and only has 12 characters, but this game is also Combo City, with the competitive scene consisting almost of more combo contests than actual matches. Smash Brawl is actually a really good game casually, but competitively they ruined a lot of the things Melee got right. The most infamous change is the random tripping mechanic where your character randomly trips. On top of that, Brawl is by far the slowest Smash Bros. Game, making it not as fun as Melee to play competitively, and the meta for Brawl scene is much less balanced. Obviously, Melee has a few characters that are more OP than anyone else, but in Brawl, Meta Knight was better than anyone and it wasn't even close. And the Ice Climbers were in this game with the ability to zero death wobble, which is saying a lot. Smash 4 on 3DS and Wii U had a much more active competitive scene than Brawl and fixed a lot of the problems that Brawl had. Obviously, the 3DS version was harder to play than the Wii U version, but they were both still slower than Melee, so it didn't stop the hardcore Melee fans from thinking that Melee was much better. And once again, I would like to point out that when people are claiming Melee is better, it's not because of the characters or stages or things most casual players would consider, but it's entirely based on the mechanics of the game and the in-game physics, which are undeniably better in Melee than in any of the previously mentioned games. So I know some of you guys still don't understand why people like Melee at all, while others are sending me hate mail telling me to hurry up and praise Melee. So I'm gonna go ahead and talk about Melee's mechanics and how unique they are before I get into Ultimates and give my opinion on the matter. So stop sending me hate mail. Alright, I'm gonna assume none of you know anything about Melee and try to explain this as simply as possible. If you try playing Melee without knowing any of the technical mechanics, it's going to feel slow and clunky. But there are a lot of different techniques in Melee that you can learn to manipulate your character's momentum and not only go faster than normal, but also have much more control of your character in general. Two of these techniques are called wave dashing and wave landing. Wave landing is when you're in the air and you press L in the direction on the stick toward the ground at a frame perfect timing and you wave land like that. Wave dashing is doing the same thing but from the ground by jumping and doing it quickly. Both of these make your character go faster and give you more control of your character, but you could also cancel in frames this way too. I'm not the most well versed in Melee frame data, so take this with a grain of salt, but generally speaking, if you can time your wavelands correctly, you can save a lot of animation frames that would normally stop you from moving after you landed. I do know there are other techniques that cancel frames for other animations as well, but I don't know enough about them to talk about them, so I apologize. There is also a lot of character specific tech too. For example, Fox and Falco can shine cancel, which could be really useful in a battle. The meta in this game, while definitely being scaled, is pretty fair for the most part if you stick to higher tier characters. Fox and Falco are the best, with Marth, Jigglypuff, and debatably Captain Falcon all being pretty much just as viable. With having all this tech, there is a much higher skill ceiling for Melee than any other Smash game, which does make it harder to get into due to the amount of tech that you have to learn just to be okay at the game. But once you do start to learn the tech and get used to manipulating your character's momentum, you'll soon start to get the feel of Melee, and it'll feel like the smoothest fighting game you've ever played. It's just hard getting to that skill level, which is why so many people argue against Melee being a good competitive game at all. Before we go take a look at Smash Ultimate's mechanics and competitive viability, it's time to take a look at today's video sponsor. Today's video is sponsored by my Twitter, so please follow it. What are you doing? So Super Smash Brothers Ultimate is obviously the newest release in the Smash franchise, having much better looking visuals, a giant roster and stage select, and native online. Oh wait, what? Melee has better online now with Slippy? Well, that doesn't count. Smash Ultimate naturally feels a lot more smoother than Melee does, at least from both a first impression and a casual perspective. A lot of the basic mechanics are more intuitive, and the skill ceiling isn't nearly as high because the meta doesn't require you to memorize a lot of different frame data or hard tricks to be good at the game. Ultimate also plays a lot faster than Smash 4 did, but not quite as fast as Melee. Obviously, faster isn't always better, but you definitely don't want your fighting game to be slow. Okay, well, not you. While Ultimate's mechanics are easier to use and feel as smooth as they can be, it still lacks the momentum manipulation and precision of how you could control your characters in Melee. This doesn't necessarily mean Melee is better or worse, but the way they play at top level are completely different, but I'll be getting into comparing the two more later. For now, we're still focusing on Ultimate, which, as I said before, has way more characters than Melee has, which in a casual standpoint is good of course, but from a competitive standpoint this is also good because all the characters aside from the Echo Fighters have their own unique movesets and tech they could do, which all come with advantages and disadvantages characters that need to be considered. In Melee, there were arguably 10 viable characters in the entire roster to play competitively, with the worst characters in the game being completely unplayable. Don't worry, Kirby, you'll get your revenge, just wait. And in Ultimate, not only are there way more characters, but the worst character in all of Smash Ultimate is still going to be competitively viable, unlike in Melee. Granted, that could just be because Smash Ultimate is still relatively new, and Melee has had literal decades to work on perfecting the tech and meta, but at the very least it goes to show how many more options you have in Smash Ultimate. There are some tricks in the Smash Ultimate meta too, but there aren't a ton. For one, if you're getting smacked into the side of a stage to the point where you're about to die if you bounce off, if you air dodge the frame you collide with the wall, then you can survive and tech the attack.
Again, we see not this rip up here.
Oh,
nice tech, that was clutch.
Oh, Bishi's gonna attack it as well! What? Oh!
Most of the tech in Ultimate though is paying attention to hitboxes, frame data, and positioning. All of this is important in Melee too, of course, but in Ultimate it's all you really have to rely on tech-wise. But again, before you think having more tech is the same thing as being a better game, keep in mind how clunky Melee feels to beginners versus how good Ultimate feels to beginners. So now that we've taken a quick look at the mechanics of both Super Smash Bros. Melee and Ultimate, it's time to do what we've all been dreading: comparing and contrasting the two. So obviously when comparing Ultimate and Melee's mechanics, there are a lot of differences, and it isn't always obvious which difference is worse. Like I've said before, the skill ceiling with Melee is obviously much higher than Ultimate, making Ultimate easier to learn and get good at, which could be seen as both good and a bad thing. You could say it's easy for beginners, which is good, but you could also say that not having a high skill ceiling makes the game too easy, where anyone can beat a pro player. Obviously this is not the case though, considering not only does Ultimate have top players and a good competitive scene, but Ultimate also has tech even though it's less than Melee. People still enjoy Melee for a reason though. When you're playing Melee at the top level and getting all the frame perfect tech right, the game feels extremely smooth. Arguably more so than even Ultimate with how fast the characters move and react to your inputs. And while you can't get to this level of gameplay with Ultimate, Ultimate has a lot more replay value among other things. In Melee, while the top 5 characters feel smoother than any other character in any Smash game, when played at the top level that is, the bottom 10 are borderline unplayable. There's a reason you never see Bowser's or Kirby's in any Melee tournaments without it being an obvious joke followed by an obvious loss. And it's because you literally cannot play them the same way. The smooth physics and mechanics of Melee don't really work for every single character and can only really be experienced using the top quarter of the tier list. In Ultimate, however, every character is smooth. There are no characters who are just bad because of how clunky they are or because they can be completely destroyed by top tier character to the point where there is no escape from combos. Okay, look, forget about Luigi, okay? My point though is the entirety of Ultimate feels smooth. Every move from every character feels comfortable to use, and you can pick any character in the game to play competitively, which is a freedom you just don't have in Melee. Looking at top level gameplay, you can start to see the other differences too. While there is an element of campiness to both metas, there are more characters in Ultimate that encourage you to camp, like Sonic does. There are also more characters in Ultimate that can get away with just spamming projectiles. I don't mean only projectiles or anything, because of course at the professional level that just doesn't work. But a lot of characters in Ultimate can get away with just constantly using 1 or 2 attacks because of how good they are, which while unavoidable is annoying and more of a problem in Ultimate than in Melee. In Melee, the entire movesets of the top characters are utilized for the most part, and there definitely aren't any straight up gimmick characters.
You're shit! You're fucking shit! You're fucking shit!
Oh, Jesus Christ. These obviously are not the only differences between the gameplays. These are just some of the more noticeable ones I could find and attempt to describe quickly to you guys so you can understand where I'm coming from more. But we're not quite done yet. While we have taken a look at both Melee and Ultimate's mechanics, we still have to wrap this video up and answer the question at hand. Wait, what is it again? So which is the better Smash game competitively? Well, it's hard to say. When played at the topmost level, I think Melee certainly requires more skill just to keep up with the fights you're in, and it feels a lot smoother and faster than Ultimate does. But Ultimate in general is more solid, has more characters to choose from in the meta, along with more stages. And it has Mega Man, so like, what do you want from me? Yes, I do personally prefer Ultimate more, definitely at a casual standpoint, and a little more at a competitive standpoint, just because I can understand people getting tired of watching Fox vs. Falco for the 100th time this decade. And sure, this can happen in Ultimate too with Joker vs. Peach or something, but there are so many more options and wildcards that appear, which makes it just more hard to have boring sets. Again, Melee is still really fun, and Ultimate can't do anything to keep up with the extra fast gameplay Melee has when perfected, giving Melee the edge in terms of gameplay. But Ultimate just has so much more replay value and options for you to choose from, on top of it being more solid overall, and I do prefer it to Melee. Though the gameplay in Melee, when played at top level, is in fact better than Ultimate competitive gameplay. So yeah, maybe that's a weird answer, but honestly, I really like the fact that both of these games are still played competitively today. It's really fun going between the super solid gameplay that Smash Ultimate has to the super crazy and high-paced gameplay that Melee has. until you miss a frame perfect tech and fast fall off a ledge.
Bitch, I'm a savage, I spit at you bastards. I wonder what you gonna do to me, oh. I need to hear someone rapping. I'm just not impressed by your cash and your jewelry, oh. Are you my soldiers? And I'm a lieutenant. God damn it, you should be saluting me, oh. I hope you know I ain't going nowhere. Are you rapping? Just better get used to me, oh nigga. I must have blew in my jeans. Call me a G, cause I wasn't riding as much. My bank account look a mess. Throw me a fit. Wait for my wire to come. Ain't nobody ever show me love when I was coming